Okay, so here's a question for you. Does using multiple different models and fusing their responses gives you better answers? Because right now people mostly use one model and trust the responses. But what if you put together the GPTs, Claudes, Geminis of the world? Now you'd get more perspectives, but also more cost and more latency. So is it actually worth it? Now I put together an LLM console and the results were honestly really surprising. It turns out a console is not for every app. Okay, so the initial idea came from Andre Karpathy, and it's extremely simple. Normally, you ask one model and you take the answer that it provides. These models are biased, but what if you're interested in second opinion? So instead, you convene a council where you have multiple different models, each answering the exact same question. Now, since you have more minds in the room, you potentially get better answers. Now, here's how it works. There are basically three different steps, but the piece that makes it possible is this AI gateway, which enables you to access multiple different model providers through a single API endpoint. Now, in the first stage, every model answers your question independently. In the next stage, each one reviews the other's answer. The responses are anonymized, so they can't play favorites and ranks them. Now, the third stage is a chairman. This model takes all of the responses and writes one final one. This is basically answer synthesis. Now, the claim is that this specific answer beats any single member. Now, I'm going to put this to the test later in the video, but this whole approach is really inspired from ensemble models in traditional machine learning, which basically states that multiple weak learners are better than a single strong learner. Okay, but first we're going to make some updates to it. Now we're going to actually tally the rankings into real leaderboard instead of just vibes. Second, we're going to give everybody a role, a skeptic, a domain expert, a contrarian, and the idea would be that we don't want them to produce similar answers. Third, we're going to let the chairman surface consensus and dissent instead of blending everything into a mush. And finally, we're going to measure whether it works or not. And the results are going to be a bit surprising. Now, in order to run all of these different models, we're going to use a single API endpoint through Vercel's AI gateway. So let's talk about AI gateway from Vercel because it's what makes this project possible. And thanks to Vercel for making this video possible through their sponsorship. Now, one key gets you hundreds of models across every provider, and you swap between them by changing just a single string. If a provider goes down or rate limits you, it can automatically retry another one. You get one dashboard for speed, latency, and requests across all of them. You don't have to juggle between 5 different providers. And it's a drop-in. It's OpenAI compatible, so works with code you already have. Now, here's the best part. The list price is without any markup. The token cost exactly what you would cost using directly from OpenAI, Anthropic, or Google, which means the gateway, which provides that one key failover and dashboard, is effectively free. There are free credits to get you started. Okay, so I'm going to show you the AI gateway later in the video when we are going through the code, but let's look at a practical example of this council of LLMs. Say we ask the council to design a rate limiter. Now in this case, it fans out 4 seats, each with its own role. Now in this case, each one is going to answer in character. There's a journalist, a skeptic, the expert, and the contrarian. Then they rank each other and we tally it into a leaderboard. So the chairman takes the winner plus the rest and gives us a single answer with where they agreed and where they did not. Now let's look at the major part of the code, how this thing is set up. So here is the whole council. We're basically using multiple different models with diverse expertise and opinions to create this council. Now this is the key part. One string is one model, all routed through the gateway on a single key, but we are firing them up in parallel. And each of these models gets their own role. Link to the whole code is going to be in the video description if you want to run it yourself. Okay, so a more detailed overview. So first we import the AI SDK, one API for every model in this case. Now then here's the console. There are right now 6 different models from 6 different labs, and we ask them all at once. So each call routed through the gateway, and each one gets its own role. Okay, so here's a live demo of the app. Code is going to be available in the video description. Now, I ran a whole benchmark through it, but I'm just showing you one quick example. Here I'm asking what caching strategy should a high traffic API use, and what are the trade-offs. Okay, so for each one of them, I have a specific role. So for example, GPT 5.5 is the first principal journalist, then we have rigorous reasoner, and then there's a red teamer, a skeptic, right? And each one of them generates their own response. And based on this, then the second stage is going to do peer ranking. So here, each one of the models ranks all the other ones. So right now, GPT 5.5 is getting the most votes, then DeepSeek V4 Pro, and these are the individual blind ranking. Then I'm using a chairman which synthesizes the results. In this case, it's Opus 4.8. Now you can see that it looks at the consensus, what are the dissents, and then based on that, it forms its final answer. And also it assigns it a confidence score of low, medium, high. Now, as I mentioned, I am using the AI gateway from Vercel. This basically lets you set up a single API key, and then you can access a lot of different models. You can actually go look at the model list. These are all the models that are available on their AI gateway without any markup, which is kind of incredible. Then you can also see the usage of the model and cost on a time scale. Now in here, there is even a leaderboard, and this is what I actually find very useful. So right now, if you see in the last 2 months, DeepSeek V4 Flash is the most widely used model, followed by Gemini 3 Flash. Now, the most important thing is that you don't need the latest state-of-the-art, highest intelligence model when you are putting things in production. In most cases, you need a workhorse model, and that's what the data shows. Okay, so in the beginning, if you remember, I said the results actually surprised me. Now, the first thing is what exactly I tested this on. So first, what we did was that we put the console up against every model answering alone. Then a completely independent judge, a model that was not on the console. This ranked them all blindly. Now, the console only wins if it beats every single model. Now, since everything is anonymized, shuffled, format controlled, with factual question graded against a known answer, I was hoping to get really independent results. Now, my benchmark contained 4 different types of questions. The first one were trade-offs, on which is lost. On risk-related questions, it also lost. But where it actually won was open-ended design questions. Now, on factual questions, we were using pretty strong models, so every one of them got it right. So the thing that really surprised me that the console won just 1 out of 3. Another interesting finding was that verbose format actually hurt in this case. The plain final answer scored better than the full write-up every time. Okay, so this brings us to when to use console of LLMs or agent and when not to. So use it when the stakes are high, when there is no single right answer, when it's research or strategy or a real trade-off, when you would genuinely want a second opinion. Now, skip it if it's a simple lookup, when the latency matters, when cost is a big factor, and when there is a checkable right answer. The way to think about the console is that it's a judgment call, it's not a calculator. And if you try to use it as a calculator, you're going to be paying the cost without much improvement. Okay, so based on my experiments, I put together a code base which uses the Vercel's AI gateway. for interacting with multiple different models through a single API endpoint. And there is also a skill which you can grab and run it on your own agents. Now, let me know what your findings are. Do they agree with what I found, or you are getting some different results? Anyways, I hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you in the next one.